Okay, picking up where we left off before I stopped the last video. Looking at the options here for step 3, you can see that it tells you what each of these reading activities focuses on. For example, the first one is reviewing short U. The second one is reviewing the vowel team AY. The third is short A, short I, and short O. So it tells you what each of these activities focuses on. So you're going to choose the activity that best fits the needs of your kids. So if, again, this is still review. This is lesson 8. So if I had to guess, lessons 1 through 7 hit all of these skills you're seeing here. If the group that I'm working with is doing okay with short vowel sounds, then I probably wouldn't pull 1 or 3, but I just recently introduced AY for the first time using Sonday, and they're still struggling with that because it is a vowel team. So I may pull that second activity for this third step. Okay, so let's look at what these are. Some of these are going to say word cards. Inside of your Sonday system kit, you will hopefully have a card deck box that looks like this with lots of cards inside of them. So on that option that I just had there, option 1 says word cards short U, and then in parentheses they say yellow. So I will pull the yellow word cards, and then on the back all of those are going to correlate to the skill that is mentioned, which said short U. So you can see here the students would read the sub, rut, hug, rug. So it's going to be a quick review of reading these words. Let's look at another option under that category. For example, option 2 says word book page 10. Inside of your kit, you have a book that looks like this or something similar that says word book. I will now flip to page 10. When I get to page 10, notice that it is a list of words that have AY. So like I mentioned a minute ago, if this is the activity I chose for step 3 because I wanted to really review the vowel team AY, then I would go to this page 10 in the word book, and I would have students read these words for me. Ray, say, pay, day. And I hope I'm reading those right because it's backwards in my view. Okay. Also, on some of your campuses, there are extra word books somewhere in your resource room or in your library. So if there are enough of these on campus, then you may have the luxury of getting a word book for each student in your group. If not, you do have the one that is in your kit. I know when I implemented Sonday in my classroom, I had to share a kit with another teacher. So we had 6 books total. I had 3, she had 3. If I had a group of 6 kids, then each 2 kids just had to share a book. So make it work however it can work in your classroom. I think that is most of the options on step 3. It's pretty commonly the word cards or the word book. However, I do see that step 6 says sight word cards. If sight words are something that your students struggle with, and remember that sight words are basically high frequency words. A lot of programs still call them sight words. We like to refer to them as high frequency words. But if that is something your kiddos are struggling with, you have these in your kit. So you would maybe want to flash those that would best help your kids. This specific lesson says review cards 1 through 5. Okay. So again, step 3 is a list of options. You choose what is best for you. Moving on to step 4, still reviewing. Here we are spelling words that we have previously been taught. So it says that students will hear each word dictated by the teacher. We want the teacher to go down the columns, not across the rows. And the reason for that is, notice that if you go down the column, you're hitting all of the previously taught skills. But if you were to go across the row, you would only be hitting that one skill. Okay, so all of the words across the top are short U words. The second row are words with a Y, and so on. We want to make sure we're reviewing all of the skills, so we would want to go down the column. For this section of the lesson, you would spend approximately 7 minutes. So get through as many or as few as you can in that time frame, or a time frame close to that. So when I get to this part, I'm going to direct my kids to go back to that student notebook that I have placed somewhere. Oh, here we go. Back in their student notebook. Again, they're in the same step you are, so we're now on step 4 of the lesson. They're going to step 4 in their book, which says spell words. I will call out the word. The students will repeat the word, and then we want them to touch spell it, okay? So we'll practice with the first one. I say it, students say it, we touch spell it, and then they write it, okay? The first word you see here is cup. So I would say our first word is cup. What is the word? Students say cup. Let's touch spell it. K-up, cup. Then they write. The next one, bay. Students say bay. We touch spell it. B-a, bay. They write. Okay? Sometimes touch spelling, they like to touch their fingers. Sometimes they touch the desk in front of them. And sometimes I would even let my kids put them up so that they were still isolating the individual sounds and then blending together, whatever is more comfortable for the student. So just like earlier when we were doing spellings of sounds in step 2, if there is a mistake on the section for spelling words, they will do the exact same thing. If they miss it, I will ask them to cross it out and then write it correctly 2 times, okay? So on this example here, obviously I called out pit. The example here, the student wrote pet. So I would say, I want you to say pit. The student would say pit. Now touch spell pit. P-it. Pit. What sound do you hear? P. What says p? They would say p, okay? What says I? They would say I. What says t? They would say t. Now let's write it. P-it. Pit, okay? Again, it's not going to hurt everyone to write it 2 additional times, but the kiddo who missed it would need to mark it out before they write it 2 correct times. Okay, also as part of step 4 in their student notebook, there's a second section for step 4 that says spell words, phrases, and sentences. In your lesson plan at the bottom, you have some sample sentences. Sometimes it's just phrases. So we will want students to write the sentence or the phrase that the teacher reads aloud. Okay, so for the first one, I may say, Sam can run to the bay. And then I normally have my kids repeat it back to me. Sam can run to the bay. If you need to count out how many words are in it, we could do Sam can run to the bay and know that there are 6 words in the sentence. Sometimes I have mine do Sam can run to the bay. We're writing 6 words for this sentence. But then once you finish dictating it, stop and give the kids time to process what you just said and write it without continuing to say it over and over. Okay? Okay, we've made it through all of the review components of a lesson, which are steps 1 through 4. Now we are at step 5. All we have left are 5 and 6. 5 and 6 is where our new material is introduced and practiced. Okay? So in the lesson plan, step 5, up here at the top, teach new material. Sometimes the lessons will have new sight words for you to introduce. In this lesson here, we're introducing the sight word I, of, and the word and. These cannot be sounded out and do need to be memorized. Again, these are often our fry list, our high frequency words, so words we see a lot when we are reading. Okay, so you have the cards for these to provide instruction on the sight words. So do that and go through the steps for introducing a new sight word appropriately following the lesson plan. So I like the teaching sound portion so much because this, I feel like, is really the meat of the lesson. So for lesson 8, the new sound that I am introducing to my kids is the vowel team EE. You can see that here. Step 2, introduce a new sound. Notice it shows you what card it is. It is sound card 24. So if I go back to my stack here, I would need sound card 24, which looks like this. So I'm going to show the card and say the sound. I'm going to say our new sound is E. Everyone say E, and the students repeat it after me. Then I want them to repeat it again while they trace it on their desk or table, or they can write it on paper. So if they're doing it on the desk, I often advise that students use 2 fingers because that's much stronger than just one. So putting 2 fingers together, and on their desk they would write E, E, and then underline it and say the sound E. Okay? Oh, I was trying to remember what I wanted to say next. In your plan book, it always gives you the rule here. I think this is great, especially for teachers who may be new to teaching phonics, or maybe you're a 4th grade teacher using this as an intervention and you aren't as familiar with all of the phonics rules that you learned as a child. So Sonday does also give you that rule here for you to make reference to. And so for this one, I may want to share, or I probably would want to share with students, that double E is the first choice for the long sound of E in the middle of a word. Okay? So then they know if I'm writing a word that has E in the middle of it, this is going to be the first choice. Okay, then it gives me a reading activity. Notice I'm looking at this bullet right here where it says, students read words from the word book, page 15. That's the same book we used earlier, word book. I'm turning to page 15. And notice here that it is a lot of words that have EE. Okay, you're not going to want to read all of these on the first day that you introduce the lesson. Use as many as you would like. After students practice reading words with the new sound that you just introduced, of course, then they are going to spell them. It gives you the words for you to dictate. They are going back to their student notebook. We're now at step 5. Notice you have 3 short lines and then 9 longer lines. I would always have my kiddos put the skill on the first line and then use the longer lines for the dictation of words. Some lessons will introduce multiple skills, so you may need a short line for each and then the appropriate lines here. Again, looking at an example, this is an example for a different lesson, obviously, where the short E was hit. So the students put the skill here, and then they used these lines to write the words appropriately. Again, an important part of this is that we do want students touch spelling for the dictation and writing of these words. Okay, so I would say the first word we're going to write today is the word meat. What is our word? Students would say meat. Let's touch spell it. Eat, meat, or eat, meat. After we touch spell it, they write it. After the students write these words, it is encouraged that the students go back and they read the list of words that they just wrote. We have now gotten through step 5, and our last step of the lesson plan is step 6, which is a continuation of the new skill that we just were introduced to. Okay? On step 6, it is just like the review part of reading. It has a lot of options here, and you choose the one that you would like to use or have access to. So step 6 is the read aloud. Obviously, this is the read aloud of words that have EE for the specific lesson. So the first option says they can read from a reading strip. If you are using this program with one individual student or possibly 2 students, then the reading strip is a good option. So it will tell you, like this lesson we've been looking at says reading strip 8. So at the top, I would pull the one that says level 8 reading strip. It has phrases for that skill. And then what I love is it does have this cover sheet that you can slide this through, and then it only highlights or shows the actual individual phrase that the student is on. This gets a little bit more difficult to use if you have a larger group, like a tier 2 group of 5 or 6 students. However, if you have a small group, 1 to 2 students, this is a great activity to pull for that. Okay, so that's one option. Option 2, students read sentences aloud from word book, page 16. Again, I'm going back to my word book, and I'm turning to page 16. Page 16 looks like this. Notice at the top we have some review sentences, and then at the bottom we have sentences that are specific to the EE pattern. So I would want to read some or all of these sentences based on the amount of time I had for this section of the lesson. Okay, and then option C, I love this option if you have access to Sonday readers. I know most of our elementary schools now do have a good inventory of Sonday readers. So for this lesson, it says you would read Sonday System Reader Level 8 or reread Level 6 or 7. Okay, so Sonday readers are most commonly found in Ziploc bags, and it has a set that is large enough for a small group. Some of our sets of books have 3 or 4 in them, and then some are larger and have 5 or 6. So you would need to check those out from your library media center as needed, and then just return them once you're finished reading them. I don't have any of the readers here at my office with me to show you, but they are little books, kind of like leveled readers, but they are decodable that match the Sonday system. And remember, that's what we want you using when you are teaching phonics. We want you to use a decodable text to support the skill that you just taught. So thankfully with Sonday, we do have Sonday readers available. Okay. Other options here that you could use if needed, but I think I just hit on the most common, which are the reading strip, the word book. Sometimes it will be the cards here, but again, we like for students to actually be able to read and apply these skills in text. So that's why it's great to give them sentence examples and then story examples as well. Okay, we have now walked through all 6 components of a lesson. So I'm giving you in your handout the placement test handout, which is this. I'm giving you the sample lesson that I walked you through today, which looks like this, and I literally just copied this from the plan book. I think that's something I didn't really talk about earlier. In your kit, you have a learning plan book which says all of your lessons for Sonday in it. So if you were to turn to lesson 8, you would see what I just went over with you. I just copied it directly from the plan book. So it's great that Sonday already has the lessons planned out for you. So I'm giving you the placement test handout, a copy of the lesson I reviewed with you today. I'm giving you this little cheat sheet of error corrections for students and their writing in their student notebook. And then I love this. I'm also giving you a colored piece of paper that has all of the error correction directions for the teacher. When I first started using Sonday, I kept this with me at my small group table because it tells me what exactly I need to say to students to correct them appropriately for each step of the lesson. So if a student made a mistake at step 2, spell sounds, and I wasn't sure how to redirect them, this would tell me exactly what to say. I see D says D. I asked for B, what says B? And then I know based on this. So I'm giving you a copy of that. And I believe that is everything. Some of you are working on kits that are not complete because maybe all of the complete kits have been checked out to other teachers. So some of you are working with pieces of kits. That doesn't mean you can't implement it fully. Ideally, you would have a complete kit. But if you have a plan book, a word book, these sound cards, and a student notebook, at minimum, you can implement the program. Obviously, it's going to be that much better if you have the cards, the sound card decks, or just the word card decks, and then things like the reading strips, and then the leveled, or not leveled readers, sorry, the decodable readers that come with Sonday. Those are all great if you have them available, but if you don't and you need to use this for intervention, your plan book, your word book, your sound cards are your bare bones. At minimum, you have to have these things. Okay, if I can support you additionally with Sonday, or if I can come model a lesson in your classroom with a small group, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thanks.